The ripple effect of kindness. In the quiet village of Meadowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and emerald fields, the townsfolk lived simple, content lives. The village was small but vibrant, its cobblestone streets lined with colorful cottages, each adorned with blooming flower boxes. Among the villagers was a man named Thomas, a reserved but hard-working blacksmith known for his impeccable craftsmanship and solitude. Thomas had one principle that guided his life. Every man for himself, life had taught him that kindness often came with hidden strings, and he preferred to keep to himself, avoiding entanglements with others. His lonely demeanor earned him a reputation as the village recluse, and while no one hated him, few tried to befriend him. One crisp autumn morning, as Thomas opened his workshop, a young boy named Samuel appeared at his door. Samuel, barely 10 years old, was the son of the village baker and often ran errands for his parents. Clutching a broken horseshoe, Samuel asked timidly, "Mr. Thomas, can you fix this for my father's cart horse? He needs it to deliver bread to the next village." Thomas sighed, annoyed by the interruption. "It'll cost 2 silver coins," he said gruffly. Samuel's face fell. "We don't have 2 silver coins right now, sir. But my father said he'd pay you in bread and pastries if you could help us." Thomas shook his head. "I don't work for bread. Come back when you have the money." Disheartened, Samuel turned to leave. As he walked away, he tripped over a loose stone and fell, scraping his knee. Thomas watched from the doorway, conflicted. The boy's pained expression tugged at a part of him he hadn't acknowledged in years. With a reluctant sigh, Thomas called out, "Wait." Samuel stopped and turned, tears glistening in his eyes. "Bring me the horseshoe," Thomas said. "I'll fix it, but only this once." The boy's face lit up with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I'll tell my father about your kindness." Thomas muttered under his breath as he worked on the horseshoe, dismissing the boy's words. Yet, when Samuel ran off with the repaired piece, a faint warmth lingered in Thomas's chest, a sensation he hadn't felt in years. The next morning, Thomas found a basket of fresh bread and pastries on his doorstep, along with a handwritten note from Samuel's father. Asterisk, "Thank you for helping Samuel. Your kindness means more than you know." Asterisk. Thomas shrugged and brought the basket inside. He told himself it was nothing, just a one-time gesture. However, word of his small act of kindness spread through the village like wildfire. Over the next few days, villagers began approaching him with smiles and greetings, something Thomas wasn't accustomed to. One day, Mrs. Eleanor, the elderly widow who lived next door, knocked on his door. "Good morning, Thomas," she said, holding a jar of honey. "I heard about how you help young Samuel. I just wanted to say thank you for looking out for our community. Here, take this as a token of appreciation." Thomas hesitated but accepted the jar. "It was nothing," he mumbled. Mrs. Eleanor smiled. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness make the biggest difference. As days turned into weeks, Thomas found himself unintentionally pulled into the fabric of village life. One evening, while walking home from the market, he noticed a stray dog limping near the edge of the forest. The animal's thin frame and injured paw stirred something in him. "Go on, shoo," Thomas said, trying to ignore the dog, but the creature's sad eyes were impossible to dismiss. Reluctantly, he approached it and carried it back to his workshop. He cleaned its wound, fed it scraps of meat, and made a small bed in the corner. The dog, which he named Rusty, became his constant companion, bringing a newfound sense of joy to Thomas's life. Rusty's presence softened Thomas further, and his growing kindness didn't go unnoticed. When a storm damaged the roof of the village school, Thomas offered to repair it for free, surprising even himself. One day, an unfamiliar traveler arrived in Meadowbrook. The man, dressed in tattered clothes, introduced himself as Elias. He explained that he had lost his way and needed a place to rest. While most villagers were wary of strangers, Thomas felt compelled to help. He offered Elias a place to stay in his workshop and shared his meals with him. In return, Elias helped around the workshop and shared stories of his travels. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Elias said, "You have a kind heart, Thomas. The world needs more people like you." Thomas chuckled. "I'm not sure about that. I'm just doing what anyone would do." Elias shook his head. "Not everyone would. Kindness is a ripple. What you give comes back to you in ways you can't imagine." The ripple Elias spoke of began to manifest. Thomas's newfound generosity inspired others in Meadowbrook to act with kindness as well. Neighbors helped each other with chores, shared meals, and supported one another in times of need. The village transformed into a community bound by compassion, and Thomas found himself at the heart of it all. Months later, Meadowbrook faced an unexpected challenge. Heavy rains caused the river to overflow, threatening to flood the entire village. Panic spread as villagers scrambled to protect their homes and belongings. Thomas, however, took charge. He organized a group to build barriers along the riverbank, using sandbags and wooden planks. Rusty barked encouragement as the villagers worked tirelessly through the night. Elias, who had stayed in Meadowbrook, proved invaluable with his knowledge of constructing flood defenses. Together, the villagers succeeded in diverting the water, saving the village from destruction. When the danger had passed, the villagers gathered in the town square to celebrate. They cheered for Thomas, whose leadership had united them in their time of need. As the years went by, Thomas continued to be a pillar of the community. The once reclusive blacksmith became a beloved figure in Meadowbrook, known not only for his craftsmanship, but for his kindness and generosity. Rusty remained by his side, a loyal companion to the end. One evening, as Thomas sat outside his workshop, watching the sunset, Samuel, now a young man, approached him. "Mr. Thomas," Samuel began, "do you remember the day you fixed that horseshoe for me?" Thomas smiled. "I do. You tripped over a stone and scraped your knee." Samuel laughed. "That day changed everything for me. It taught me the power of kindness and how one small act can ripple through a community. I wanted to thank you for showing me that." Thomas's eyes glistened with emotion. "I should be thanking you, Samuel. You reminded me that life is richer when we care for one another." And so, Thomas's legacy became a tale passed down through generations in Meadowbrook, a story of how one small act of kindness can create ripples that change the world. Moral of the story: kindness, no matter how small, has the power to create ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. A single compassionate act can inspire others and transform lives, reminding us that we are all connected in the fabric of humanity.